we have factories. How long does it take to lose $10,000?
Yeah.
Like a minute?
Yeah.
Sometimes less.
It's not just a scheduling software. It makes sure that, my doors are here on time and they're ordered on time and each step is done on time. And if not, big red flashing lights to say, hey, we got a problem. Let's slow down and stop.
Predict the future.
Yeah.
Which if we could do that accurately, we would all be on a beach sipping margaritas right now because we can tell you the racehorses or the lottery numbers. If you have 1 out of 5 destroying your schedule, well, get rid of the one, make room for some other good customer.
We ask specific questions because we realized without specific questions, customer says, yes, I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready.
I got the drywall up in the basement.
That's right. Exactly. So
principle of Hey Junka, which is level your schedule so you don't have busy weeks, slow weeks, busy weeks, slow weeks. We're an hour apart and we had to fly 3,000 kilometers across the country to finally just do a podcast together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another podcast of On the Shop Floor. And today we are very fortunate to have my good friend, John Bultje. Did I get that right?
Bultje, yeah.
Bultje, very good. I panic every time I have to send you an email. John's from Windmill Cabinets in Chatham, Ontario. And one of the things that we see all the time at my company, we're exposed to a lot of cabinet shops, and we can see who's running around with their hair on fire, and we can see who kind of has it a little bit under control. And your company consistently is always rising to the top that, okay, you guys have this scheduling thing under control. And that's what we're going to talk about today on the shop floor. We're going to take a deep dive into the nightmare that is scheduling.
Yep.
Are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
So first kind of entertaining story is your factory's maybe an hour and a bit from mine.
Yeah, about that.
And when we first moved to St. Thomas, we ended up buying a big old SCM beam saw. And we just discovered now that I bought that off of you.
That's right.
Way back in 1980 or something. I don't know when it was.
Yeah, I wasn't born yet, probably.
Wait a sec, easy. So that was that. I mean, crazy small world. So we ran that saw for years and years, and I hated every second of it. Yeah. I know why you sold it. Thanks for that. Before we dive right into the whole scheduling thing, I would love it if you could just maybe give us some history. Walk us through the Windmill cabinet shop.
Sure.
Start as far back as you want.
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me. Super excited to be here. I've known you for a long time, and I've watched your first 2 podcasts, and very exciting. I'm glad to be here. Glad you asked me to come. A little bit nervous, but excited. So Windmill Cabinet Shop. It was founded by my father in 1976. With his business partner, Andy. My dad's George, business partner, Andy. So he started the business right out of high school. So he was 17 years old, and didn't want to go to college. And he decided to start a cabinet company. His dad was building houses and he needed a new cabinet company. So he said, oh, why not? I'll give it a shot. So I started working there like any business owner's son when I was 10.
Born.
Yep, walking through, sweeping floors, and full time in the summers during elementary school and high school. So I got to do everything. So I got to see a lot, which was good. But what was it like? It was chaos at times. Lots of running around, lots of pulling hair out, lots of overtime, lots of coming in early. My dad worked his butt off. I rarely saw him. He worked from 6 a.m. till 11 p.m., midnight every night. Just trying to provide, and that's what needed to be done.
Well, you've summed up every woodworker who's ever started a wood shop.
Absolutely. Yeah, my dad was pretty good at keeping up with technology, but it got to a point where he needed more. He needed more people to get involved to help him, and that's where actually my brother-in-law came in to be Will, who's now my business partner, to kind of help down that avenue, which we would not be anywhere we are today without Will.
Right.
So absolutely.
Shout out to Will.
For sure.
He's going to be on a podcast because I know he runs the hidden factory, so to speak.
Yep.
And so look out, Will. We're coming for you.
Yeah.
So 2006, you're on the scene. Now what?
So 2006, 2007, or somewhere around there on the scene. So again, my dad, if you've ever worked for your dad, and in terms of like plans, I don't know, he didn't tell me his plans for me. He just said, hey, let's get to work. So that's what I did. I worked. So I did everything that I could do in the shop. I did laminate countertops. I ran the CNC machine. I ran the panel saw. I ran the edge bander. I sanded. I delivered. I installed. I built cabinets. I hung doors. I built drawers. I did everything. And so that was for, I'm going to say 7 years. I was on the shop floor, install, delivery, whatever I had to do. And then after that, I became, as we called it back then, the shop foreman. That basically, I was a fireman. I put out the fires.
That's a good way to put it.
That was my job. So I put out the fire. So that would be around 2015, 2014. And then Will came along around then at that time too. So after I became foreman, Will came along. And then ever since then, we've grown the business to where it is now. So
what would you, like, where were you guys and whatever you're comfortable sharing in that 2006 versus today? I mean, I know because you have buildings everywhere, but like for everyone listening, how big was the shop?
I would say the first 4 years that we were involved, we basically kind of doubled everything. At that point, we kind of ran out of room, or so we thought. And, we accessed more buildings. We moved our showroom, built a new showroom. Now we have a bunch of storage warehouse, and now we have a whole building that sits basically empty of 10,000 square feet. So yeah.
Listen, like 1,000 people just got really jealous right now. They're like, what? 10,000? We're all trying to squeeze in like every inch.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're fortunate that we do have more room to expand in the future.
But congratulations for not just expanding into it because you have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've seen that happen so many times where everyone just uses the space that they have, and at times that's a big mistake.
Absolutely, it is, for sure. Yeah, we wish we could get more compact because we have different buildings that people do different things in, and sometimes they feel far away. So yeah, work with what we got.
Right. Okay. So now we're going to jump into the scheduling bit because everyone's chomping at the bit right now to get there. In 2006, say, when you came on to be the foreman,
yes.
How did you schedule?
It was a nightmare. I still remember we had a secretary. Her name was Kathy, and she was our secretary and our scheduler. For lack of better term, a scheduler. And then our shop foreman before, and then me would, meet with Kathy kind of once in a while and say, okay, these are the jobs that we can do this week. And we write them down on a piece of paper or on Microsoft Word or whatever we had. And we would type them all out. Monday, we can do this. Tuesday, we can do this. Thursday, etc. And back then, basically how we scheduled was, here's the jobs that we got on the intake this week. There's 15 of them. Here you go. Right. There's nothing. The contractor said, hey, I need it in 6 weeks. Okay.
Start building.
Sounds good. So then you could imagine the chaos that would come from that. So after we go through the schedule, we say, oh, we can't do this one, we can't do this one, we can't do this one. They got to move to next week. And then repeat, jumbled mess. And then it all has to come crashing down, rebuild, start over. So that's what it was like.
I mean, it sounds pretty sweet. I think we could just stop now.
Yeah.
Did you keep any templates we could share with the listener?
Yeah, I probably have some. I can dig some up, handwritten pictures maybe.
Okay, so fast forward a little bit. Obviously, that was a bit of a challenge. What was kind of like your first steps in overcoming that little bit of chaos?
Yeah, I can very much remember this. And this was, again, when Will came into the business. One of his goals was obviously to get more technology into the business. And, the first one was, the big problem we saw was scheduling. So what do we do with this scheduling problem? And what is the problem? Well, the problem is we say we can do things when we know we can't.
Right.
So how do we stop that? So basically what we did is we came up with just a very simple Excel database that we would pre-schedule our customers in. As simple as that. So, if we had a bunch of contractors and we looked at years history and say our contractors did 50 or 60% of our work and the remaining was 40 or 50% of private, because private's a little bit more hard to schedule because you don't know what you're getting. With a contractor, you know, if he built 10 houses last year, he's going to build 10 houses this year.
Right.
So we put that into the system, kind of made phone calls for long-term planning, and we hired a long-term planner.
Okay, so if we can just back up quickly to iteration 1, the 2006 iteration, what kind of volume were we talking about where you were just doing that, you know, notepad meeting, good luck scheduling method?
Hard for me to remember exactly, but I think it would be around $5 or $6 million.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then in kitchens a day, what is that? Could you guess?
Yeah, I'm gonna guess it would be like maybe two, maybe
Okay.
10 a week,
Right.
10 to 15 a week,
Right.
depending on the size. Yeah.
Okay.
About that.
Now, just there, you've already I mean, that's a great kitchen cabinet company. There's a lot of people that wish they could make 2 kitchens a day.
Yeah.
So your dad did a heck of a job
Absolutely.
until you guys came along, and I can't wait to tell everybody what you're doing now. Okay, so now we fast forward a little bit. You've got this Excel spreadsheet, and interesting person you mentioned that if you could elaborate on would be that long-term planning person. What's that?
So we found the need, and we were fortunate enough that we could make this a full-time job, this long-term planner. I know a lot of companies can't, but I would still strongly suggest to look into some sort of long-term planning role, whether it be, you know, a couple hours a week or whatever you can afford to have. So this long-term planner, basically his job, we were really fortunate back in, you know, 2016, 17, 18 to be extremely busy, and we did not have to go look for work. All the work came to us. And so our biggest problem was filtering all that work. What do we do with it all? And so we would get hundreds of thousands of dollars of work in a week that we had to put somewhere, and we didn't want to let our customers down. So our theory was, okay, contractors, you work with us, we work with you, you're guaranteed spots, this is where they're going to go. So we put them in the schedule, you know, throughout the whole week, and then we basically fill in the rest with privates or, you know, the guy who comes in once every 2 years, a kitchen, whatever. So we fill in the time or the blank spaces with customers that walk in. So they come in today, you say, oh, I'm interested in a kitchen. I'm looking for somewhere around July. And we look and we say, yep, we have an opening. It's yours. It's yours if you can commit to us. And there's no pressure there. It's not a pressure point or pressure sales tactic. It was more along the lines of saying, if you are interested in working for us, we can guarantee you a date, but you need some skin in the game. So give us a little bit of deposit and off we go.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that we'd have to spend a lot of time digging into the pencil, paper, meeting scheduling. That those challenges should be pretty apparent. But when you advanced into now this Excel sheet,
Yep.
what were the biggest challenges that you still haven't overcome? Like, there's a big step forward, but obviously, because I know where you are today, there are still problems with that. So what were the challenges there?
I guess the biggest challenge would be, I'm going to say you still can't control the other end, right? I can't control the end user. If the customer says, oh, I'm going to be ready in the first week of March, and they're not, what do? I can't force them to be ready. So that would be the biggest challenge back then and still is today. But in terms of, I guess the challenge would be me still manually running around on the shop floor, juggling all these physical pieces of paper work orders to say, hey, cut this one first. Oh, not this one. This customer's not ready. Let's shuffle, redo, here you go. Make a schedule, redo it. Make a schedule, redo it. Based off of making phone calls to customers, finding out when they're going to be ready, when they're not going to be ready. So a lot of manual, physical, you know, stop and start.
I think this is where a lot of people give up on their schedule because of how many times you have to redo it. And they're just like, oh my God, like why, if I just have to redo it every 2 days, why even do it? And they just give up. So that's a great pain point.
Yeah. And it definitely was painful. Our rule, what we tried to do is once we started, we didn't want to stop. But you know, if you start a job and it takes you, let's say, a week by the time you cut it and it's all built into cabinets now and needs to go out the door, and the customer said they're going to be ready, and then, no, my drywaller didn't show up, or my painter didn't show up, or the flooring guy, whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. We're not ready for you now. So what do you do? And
well,
so that was our challenge.
And lucky for you, I put out the questionnaire to two of our lean communities, and that one came up roughly 7,941 times. So we're going to spend some time on that one coming up. So now, where were we? I lost track in the timeline. 2014 or something, and
yeah. So
what was the next step after Excel? I guess is a question I'm trying to ask.
So one thing that, a big part of the scheduling nightmare was physically rearranging the work. That was basically like 80% of my day, was just making sure that all the jobs were in the right order. So following this one, is this one cut, is this one finished, is this one sanded, are the doors in for this one, etc. So it's a lot of manual work. So I think the next biggest step for us would have been to get our ERP software.
Okay.
Which is a massive game changer for us. It basically eliminated all of the manual scheduling, and it does it all automatically for us. It keeps track of every little thing. So now, instead of me manually going out on the shop floor and moving this work order to this one and say, don't cut this one, let me pull it back. First of all, we've gone fully paperless, which is great. And second, now if a customer calls in and says they're not ready, our long-term planner can just go on and change the date, and the job disappears from the cut list. It just skips over and it's gone. Disappeared, no work, nobody asked any questions.
Okay, so hang on. So we've got everybody listening right now drooling on their device that they're listening on. You might want to just tell us a little bit about the effort that said system took to get set up, because this is no like, oh, I bought it Wednesday and by Friday we were shuffling jobs around like John said.
No. Yeah. So we've been going strong with this software for, I think it's coming up on 5 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's 5 years.
I feel like it was yesterday.
Yeah. And we're still not even close to being, done with it.
Right.
We'll never be done with it. But lots of effort, and it was all good things, because it asked the right questions, like, hey, how long does it take you to cut a job, and it tracks that. And then how long does it take to edge band the job, and it tracks that. How long does it take to finish and sand the doors, and are all the parts here? Are they ordered on time? It keeps track of everything. It's not just a scheduling software. It makes sure that, my doors are here on time and they're ordered on time, and each step is done on time. And if not, big red flashing lights to say, hey, we got a problem. Let's slow down and stop. Before, that was all manual tracking in my head, and I probably forgot 100 things a day.
Right.
Now it does it for me.
Somewhere along this journey between 2006 and you joining the organization and where we are today in 2022 with your fancy magical ERP system, there was also another little factor which we can't not mention for sure, is lean. This crazy lean thing. Can we just quickly touch on, when do you think you got going on that? What's been some of the benefits?
Yeah, it's hard to quickly touch on it.
Right.
But what got me going on it was I needed some MDF doors, and I called you, and you showed up at my office an hour later with a door and said, hey, I want to sell you doors. And then we got down the lean road. So that was 2017 or 18, I believe, 2017, 18. And, fast forward, 6 years. We've been doing lean in the shop with our guys for, I think, about 5 years, 4 to 5 years. Wow. So where would it be without it? I don't know, and I don't want to know. But yeah, it has definitely taken us a long way. And I truthfully believe, our long-term planning, scheduling couldn't be where it is without lean, because if you have bad throughput and massive overproduction, you'll never get to a point where you're able to schedule properly.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I think as we're sitting here, I'm like, oh my God, we're doing a plant tour as soon as we get home to couple with this podcast so everyone could kind of see what you have going on, because I was there on day one when we started making doors for you. Yeah. And then I walk in there now and it is like, there is not one thing out of place. And I thought last time I was there, I was going to I like to trick people, and they say they're lean, and I'll go digging through their drawers and stuff. And I went through every toolbox, and there wasn't anything out of place. Labels everywhere, wow. Kanban everywhere. You guys have just done such an amazing job of that.
Yeah, and that's not, that's all my guys. I don't, crack the whip for having to do it. If they find it to be easy and they think their job is going to be easier by doing it, that's what they do. So
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, I hope everybody listening is immediately going to run out and Google lean manufacturing and start doing it. But back to scheduling.
Yep.
I want to just quickly jump back to your long-term planning position. This is something I've been in and out of literal hundreds of cabinet shops, and I haven't heard anything about this person. Tell me more.
Sure. So I'll just kind of run through what he does every day. So from the start of a work order, so I guess the start of a potential customer, usually it starts with a phone call from one of our sales designers to say, hey, I got a customer call today, or I got a walk-in today. They're building a new house. They're looking for a kitchen approximately around September. Do we have any openings? And, Chris would look and he would say, yep, we have X amount of time, space, dollars, whatever, how you measure, of opening here. They say, okay, sounds good. So they put it in there, loosely in there. So at least we can tell the customer, hey, we have space available. Yes, we can do the project when you would like it. Right. And then it's up to our sales design team to kind of explain how that works to the customer. Say, hey, we can put this in there solid, written in stone, if we have a commitment deposit, and once that's there, your name's in the spot. There are discrepancies. We can nail it down. We say a 1 to 2 week window.
Sure. Smart.
Depends how long. Sometimes it's a year, sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's only 8 weeks away. But we always say 1 to 2 weeks. And the reason for the 1 to 2 weeks is because, yes, we want to make sure that we try and keep everybody happy, but a contractor we definitely want to keep happy. And most of the time they are on schedule. We try and partner with our contractors that are on schedule. We kind of know their tendencies. But if something goes wrong and, they're in a panic to get their kitchen done, I don't want to just say, oh, sorry, we can't do it. There has to be some window that we can move them to the next week, and some flexibility there somewhere, or else it's impossible.
Yeah, I've seen that go wrong a lot of times, and I'm on the other end of that now with one of our other businesses with the machinery. Everyone's asking me, what day can I get it?
Yeah.
And we realized really quickly that giving someone a day is just a suicide mission. Like, it has to be a window. There's just too much statistical fluctuation in there. Now, when you say they're looking ahead into September or a year down the road, and we have this slot, how are they scheduling? Are they scheduling by time? Are they scheduling by dollars? Are they scheduling by, you tell me.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it would be however you feel most comfortable. Right now, we still do dollars, but we realize that is not accurate, and we are switching to time. We're in the middle of switching to time right now with our ERP software, because it schedules time for everything.
Right.
So we are directly right in the middle of switching to time right now. But currently we're still using a dollar figure based off of past years. We kind of know it works. It's not perfect, but it does work. So it's dollars.
Okay. So, and I mean, I think that probably most shops are doing something similar, because dollars are unfortunately easy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
The caveat to dollars is that's not representative of the effort all the time.
Correct.
You could have a paint grade kitchen with no finish, or with an easy finish, or a walnut rift cut, whatever. And if you're scheduling by dollars, one of them is going to say, hey, it's going to take us 3 months to do this job. And one of them is going to say it takes a week. So just for everybody listening, that's the caveat to dollars. You got to be very careful. If your work is similar, like for us at the door company, we can schedule by dollars.
Yeah.
MDF all day long. Yeah. You guys have way more variability in that process.
Yeah, and we definitely see that. And with the software, with the ERP software, it allows us to schedule. We can schedule, sheets. We can schedule square feet of finishing. We can schedule edge banding meters. We can schedule doors. Wow. We can schedule drawer slides. We can do whatever we want. So it's all based off of a bottleneck, and that's how we schedule. So we're in the middle of that right now. Constant effort directly into the system. So
is it someone's job?
We don't have like one specific person. We kind of have a main guy who kind of looks over Synapse, but it's everybody's job to make sure that the product's in there correctly with the correct amount of time. For example, if we have a new sheet good that comes through, it needs to have cutting time. It might need to have some finishing time put on it, etc. So we've just been really dialing in the times, very specific details. And also everybody on the shop floor can punch in and out of their tasks. So if we say all of a sudden, hey, scuffing these painted doors should take, an hour and a half, and we see that it's taking 2 or 3 hours, we can get down there and we can see what's going on. Because, yesterday it was taking this, or maybe this door style takes a little bit longer than this one, and so we can adjust those times. So just tiny little minute details do make a difference.
Okay. So now we've got the picture from the beginning to kind of where you're at today.
Yep.
Now, the beginning you said with the notepad you were like in the 5 million range. Now you're
just over double, well, more than double.
Okay, so you're
12,
10,
14.
10, 15. Okay,
Yeah.
So we're in the 12, 14 million dollar range now. And I'd like to just jump into some of the questions that we got. When is each department notified of a job?
Well, that's an easy question to answer on my end, only because of our ERP software. Honestly, they come into work in the morning and it shows them exactly what they need to do, how long it's going to take them, and what's next.
How far out does your schedule go?
Yeah, so that depends on how busy we are. So, if I have an opening in 6 weeks and a customer comes in today, they're going to have a kitchen in 6 weeks. If a customer comes in today and says, I want to, break ground in the fall and thinking about a kitchen next spring, then it might be a year and a half.
Right. But I think the question probably comes from somewhere like, when does the schedule start tightening up? Like,
Okay.
You're a year out, it's loose.
Yep.
When do you get serious about that?
So maybe I could go back and just talk about the long-term planner role. We kind of started where he starts. So he starts by receiving a intake, gets him in the schedule. And it is that long-term planner's goal to, for lack of a better term, to annoy that customer with phone calls and questions. We make contact with a customer, depends how many times they move, but if they are on schedule, we make contact with the customer 5 times. So from day one, as soon as the work order is submitted into production, the very first thing we do is we call. So the customer just met with the designer, signed off and everything. We got the work order submitted into production. First thing, we give a call. Hey, Mrs. Smith, it's Chris from Windmill Cabinet Shop. We just received your order. We have a delivery expected X to X. So immediately, if there is any discrepancy, we can hit it right away. And that was a big problem before because as sales designers or a customer, they hear one date and they get their dates mixed up. They write it down wrong.
Humans.
Who knows
Let's
what.
play the telephone game right now.
And so we try to combat that immediately because we realized it was a problem. So now it's not a problem anymore because it's immediate. We call and they say, "Oh no, I was expecting it a week early." But now at least I have, 6 or 7 weeks to be able to move that job up, not 3 weeks later when we call or 4 weeks later when we call. I know now. So it's immediate phone call. And then 2 weeks before expected delivery, we would call again. So we would call and say, hey, just seeing how you are. Is drywall done? Is flooring done? Do you got your painter lined up? And we ask specific questions because we realized without specific questions, customer says, yes, I'm ready. Yes, I'm ready.
I got the drywall up in the basement.
That's right. Exactly. So we ask, is the drywall up? When's mudding starting? When's the painter coming in? Is flooring going in before or after cabinets? When do you expect that to be? Because with asking more direct questions, we get better answers. So we ask those questions and we get some good answers. So we realize, we think that you're going to move a week. So we put a little note in the work order. Customer says they're going to be ready, but it might be possibly pushed to the next week. So we call them 2 weeks out. We call them, and then if they say, no, I'm not going to be ready, they move a week, we call them again 2 weeks before. And if they move again, we call them again. And so then we call 1 week out to make sure, and then we call 2 days out. So we call a minimum of 4 to 5 times. Could be more depending on how often.
Do you ever send anybody out to the site to confirm with what they say is true?
Absolutely. People might think this is crazy, but we will go to a job site 3 times before we show up with a cabinet. So number one, as soon as we get an intake, the very first thing we do is we have a site measure. All he does is site measures for us. He goes and site measures the house. So he'll take pictures, he'll do site measures. Sometimes cabinets are there. If it's a new home construction, we kind of skip that one because we can work off blueprints. But if it's a renovation, we send them out to the house. They take rough measurements, send pictures right on an iPad. We use a program called OneNote just for that. And it gets sent directly to the sales designer. So they have immediate pictures and measurements that can go off to start a preliminary design. So once a prelim design is done and completed, and we have some sort of a deposit from the customer that they know they're going to go with us because they like, the price, it's not going to change that much if, a wall's out an inch or something like that. So then we go to the customer's house again and we do another measurement to make sure to verify that there's nothing, or we say, hey, this bulkhead has to move, or this wall you said you're going to frame in, or this outlet has to be moved because it's going to be in the way, etc., whatever it is, ductwork, windows, the list goes on. And then the job gets submitted into production, but before we start building cabinets, we go back a third time because it is far enough down the road of renovations or new build that the rough-ins are done and all the work should be completed in terms of moving things around. So if we ask the customer to move that outlet, or we ask them to remove the bulkhead, or say they're going to drywall that wall in, or knock the wall out, or build a new wall at X dimension, we want to double check. We want to double check ductwork, we want to double check electrical outlets, we want to check framing, we want to check flooring thickness, we want to check ceiling heights, whatever it is, we want to go back and double check. This is not something specifically that would benefit, at the end of the day, it does benefit us.
I was just going to ask you, I was going to say, this is an extra position. And of course, everybody right away is going, oh my God, I have to have someone on the payroll just to keep these contractors in order.
Yeah.
But you can't quantify it. But how much does that save you to not have to redo stuff? And you're trying to protect your schedule so you're not rescheduling.
Yeah. Anybody that has a cabinet shop knows at the install level, the amount of questions that come up.
Oh, baby.
It's crazy. It can be hours and hours and hours of work. So something as simple as a very small scenario is a site measurement I went on last week, a final site measurement. There's supposed to be hydro coming out for the island on both ends. And the hydro wasn't there. It was not there. So thankfully the electrician was there and we could ask, say, hey, Mr. Electrician, there's supposed to be hydro coming out. We've marked it where it's supposed to be coming out. We don't see it. He goes, I like to do it after the fact because then I know exactly where I can drill my holes. That's no problem. All good. But guess what? If that's not marked down, that's a phone call. And it's like that right there. So that's a phone call now, the installer to the installation manager, the installation manager to the sales designer, the sales designer to the homeowner, the homeowner to the electrician, and then back.
Snowball.
And we just wasted an hour of time and then all for nothing because, oh no, he just pops it up before. All good, move on.
Right.
But, if you have a case of ductwork in the way, at the end of the day, the guy putting the ductwork in should have put it in the right place. But if he didn't, and now the floor's on and now the cabinets are on, it's still a problem that we have to deal with. And so if we can go for an hour to do a site measurement, take pictures, verify everything, and we know it's good, at the end of the day, it's a time saver.
Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more with that. And I'm glad you elaborated on that because I think so many people need to hear that and need to understand that you have to double check. And this, like the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking, this is what a lean company sounds like. Because we have no guessing, no assuming, where the question is, the answer is. And if you have those principles kind of like built in, then you're like, yeah, that's totally worth it. I don't need to justify that cost of that person because the cost of, like, we have factories. How long does it take to lose $10,000?
Yeah.
Like a minute?
Yeah.
Sometimes less, So yeah, when you get rid of defects, the sun comes out, the clouds start parting. Next question is the popular one is, how do you deal with late contractors when someone says, I'm good. And even if, let's just take it to the extreme. They've passed all the litmus tests. They passed all your 5 calls, but on the day before you're installing, lightning hits the house. Now what?
Yeah. There's no magic potion or secret sauce. And I hate to break it to everybody, but we have a warehouse where we can store finished goods. And that's all there is to it because we were fortunate that we have enough space that we are able to do it. And we did see a value in having this warehouse and that's it. So, Unfortunately, we've become really good at palletizing our job. So we've created a standardized pallet that can fit, a good amount of, lower cabinets, base cabinets, upper cabinets, all that we can shrink wrap together. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really cause us that much more time because we're able to take these pallets, forklift them into a warehouse, and then as soon as that job now is ready, we can forklift them off and put them directly into the truck, and away we go. So it's only forklift time, which is maybe 15 or 20 minutes max. Before, it was hand bombing onto the truck, driving them back to the warehouse, hand bombing them off, and then hand them back onto the truck, and then off to the. So we're hours of work and damage. So we have created, a good standard and use that time efficiently to not waste, because at the end of the day, that's all wasted time.
Yeah,
so we have
for
to
sure.
take advantage of that.
And I've seen it done two different ways, and I can say the majority that I think are doing it right are allowing that buffer after manufacturing. You're not done yet.
Yeah.
You have another process, which is your install, and according to how we would set up the factory, if we're adhering to buffer management rules, there's a buffer between the end of your shop and the install, and that's the accordion that flexes back and forth.
Yep.
And it has to, because there's just no way to know what's going to happen on that job site.
Absolutely.
So that was storing finished boxes the way you do, I think is brilliant. I've seen it done one other way where they won't assemble the kitchen until they get the green light, like it's like they can go there and see it's ready, and they pull it down, flat packed, assemble it, and send it out. And I'm sure there's pros and cons to both methods, but
sure,
that warehouse space or somewhere to bring that stuff is critical. I don't know if a cabinet company can actually bill a customer because hey, you're not ready when you said you were. If you're a small shop with absolutely no space, maybe that's your only option. You have a deal with a warehouse down the street, and you say, hey, your job has to go. I'm sending it to the warehouse down the road. Here's their contact information. Set up the billing. It could sit there for a year. We don't care.
Yeah.
And then you can keep building. You're fortunate you have your own warehouse.
Yeah, we definitely are fortunate. We even use our warehouse for if we're looking at a job our week and we have a really busy week, or if we have a little bit of a slow week, we're able to pull jobs up. If we have a super busy week in 2 weeks and we know it's going to be really tough for us to build all these boxes that we have to build, but the week before is not so busy, I can pull a job up and I can just build it early. And it's that simple. And I can see that immediately to say, hey, we got a busy week here, not so busy here. Let's pull a few jobs from week 7 into week 6, get them assembled, put them into storage, and away they go. And we're fortunate that we can use that. So we actually use that as a buffer. That helps us schedule a little bit more too.
Well, and that would be tying into the principle of Hejunka, which is level your schedule so you don't have busy weeks, slow weeks, busy weeks, slow weeks.
Absolutely.
And you're using the warehouse to do that.
Well, we're using the warehouse and we're using our long-term planner for that too. That's his job to make sure those numbers are level as they can possibly be. Because without level, you're this and that's hard.
Very hard, very hard. Maybe just so we have an idea of like what you're trying to scale. How many boxes a day are you guys doing right now on average?
Yeah, we're a little bit slow right now. But
how many can you do? Like in your
so I would say on average in like busy time, we're between 75 and 90.
Right.
All depends. Depends how many people I have. Busy time we have about 75 people, and right now we have a little bit less just because of the economy. Not so much work coming down the pipe.
Right. And for everybody listening too, that you do everything. You are from the sales to the install all under one roof. You're not subbing out that work.
Correct. Yeah. Sales, design, manufacturing, installation.
So you're running 3 companies as far as I'm concerned under that one roof.
We look at it that way very much.
Yes. And I guess tying into the scheduling, when people are missing, what do you do? Because your schedule software is assuming everyone's coming to work tomorrow. 4 people don't show up. Now what?
Well, I have 1 word, 2 words, cross-training. You can't do it without it. I got no word of a lie. I have guys that can run the CNC machine, and then if we need help in the sanding room, they're sanding doors, and then they're back on the CNC machine, and then the edge bander, then they're building cabinets, and then they're staining a door, and then they're hanging doors, and then they're going on a delivery. I don't understand how you could do it without cross training, because if you have people that can only do one thing, to me, that's not very valuable.
Yeah, well, I mean, all that does is run you into trapped labor every time you turn around. Oh, I'm the sander. Oh, I'm the CNC guy. Oh, yeah. Something that we do at our company for the people missing thing is we track expected hours versus actual hours. How much lower is our actual versus our expected, which then gives us a ratio to, let's say, we're saying we need 10 people, but our actual says we need 12 people to always have 10 people on the floor. So we run that and we track that on a daily basis so that we're hiring more than what you need, because any fluctuation when it comes to time, money, or people is not a symmetrical bell curve. It is very one-sided. It can only go down. 3 more people aren't going to show up on Friday. Be like, let's get some work done, everybody. So you're always going to be running short on those things. So we look at it as we overhire, and then if by some miracle everybody shows up, hey, let's get some improvements done. Let's get some cleaning done.
Yeah.
Whatever. Phil from our Quantum Lean community, he wants to know, what's your biggest struggle currently?
Currently this moment, we don't have any large schedules or large problems, because like I said, we're not particularly busy. But I would say in our busy time, still trying to hammer down people on dates. It's hard. It's not easy. And that's why we have a guy full-time doing it. That's it. It's just, really getting that solid date of when they think they're going to be ready. And, if you have a good long-term planner, he will be able to make adjustments based off phone calls, asking the right questions, based off, this contractor always says he's going to be ready and he's always 2 weeks late.
Yeah.
We can make those adjustments and move forward accordingly. So I guess the biggest struggle is the unknown, which is out of our control, right? Which is the end user. They're out of our control. I can't control what they do.
Right. And that's why I think the entire subject of scheduling is so hard. It essentially, you're being asked to predict the future.
Yeah.
Which, if we could do that accurately, we would all be on a beach sipping margaritas right now, because we can tell you the racehorses or the lottery numbers.
That's right.
So the fact that we're already looking into the future, trying to predict it, is technically impossible. It's just, what tools and tactics are we using to mitigate the risk of our bad prediction of the future, or to improve our prediction of the future? That's a tough one. I mean, that's why I think I'd be willing to bet half of everybody in manufacturing has just almost given up on the scheduling thing, or they're still all grabbing at straws trying to find the answer. And I'm really nervous, sorry, before we get into the next question, I'm really nervous that you talked about the ERP, which we can plug. I mean, it's Synapse. It's a
Synapse.
great software.
It's an excellent software.
But just the way you said it, and I guess the YouTubers will see the smile that happened on your face when you started talking about it. It just made it seem so easy. And I'm sitting here going, oh my God, if we can just somehow give people like the real, it is so hard to get an ERP. Not hard. It's a big commitment. It's a big deal to get an ERP going.
It is a huge deal. Like I said, we've been working on it for 4 to 5 years now. And
what percentage of the software do you think you're using at this point?
I would say probably 65, 70%.
Right. And you're 5 years in.
Yeah. So we have manufacturing, full scheduling. We do ordering, receiving, and inventory management. Yeah, that's it. So we still have a sales module that we can plug in there, and also invoicing, also pricing.
That's a lot of data entry. It is. So I don't want everyone running out and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, I think the important part is letting people know, like, you were ready for that step. You got up to $5 million with a notepad.
Yeah.
Most companies are not even going to get up to $5 million. There's someone listening right now in their garage going, oh my God, if I could do $5 million, all I need is this software. No, you don't. Yeah. You can get to $5 million with a notepad. You can get to $8 million with Excel.
Yep.
But you start getting, 8 plus, you start to need some help, I think.
Yeah. I guess the cost of it you have to look, obviously, there's a cost to the ERP software, and you have to look at your time, or whoever's time it is on the floor. And, we looked at it as time, but also savings for, the mistakes that are being made. and the jobs that are sitting there, and defects, overproduction, all the things that comes along with that. And so far so good.
Right. All right. Another question. Now that I'm reading it, we might have already covered some of this, but you're running a few projects at a time. You have a perfect schedule for the next 6 months. Then all the GCs are behind, not ready for field measurements. Architects make changes. How do you deal with this?
Again, well, it's long-term planning,
right?
It's phone calls, constant phone calls, making sure they're ready. And at the end of the day, I haven't really touched on it, but we look at our contractors as partners with us. We are a partner to them. They are a partner to us. And so if they are stringing you along and always not telling you the full truth or half truths, there has to be a conversation that's had to say, hey, we want to work with you, but there's got to be some change, because you're losing money if you are building a kitchen and now you have to store it or do whatever with it and the contractor's not ready. So, but again, if the contractor is forward and says, oh, yep, I got to move I had a flood or whatever happened, at least we have the ability to move jobs into the schedule or move them, a little bit later, a little bit earlier, because of the long-term planning. Without a proper schedule, you can't do that.
And I'm scrolling through all of the questions, and they're literally every single question is that. We've got Pablo from Argentina. He's like, so this is not just a Canada problem or a North America problem. In Argentina, the GCs also are not ready when the jobs, then they say they're going to be ready.
And it is tough, because at the end of the day, if that's all your work and every contractor is always late and maybe, fibbing to you, maybe it's just a conversation that say, hey, I want to work with you. What can we do to make this better? There has to be some give and take somewhere along the lines, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we've all heard it from every guru in the world that says sometimes you just got to fire some customers.
Yep.
And so if that person, if you have 1 out of 5 destroying your schedule, well, get rid of the one, make room for some other good customer.
Yep.
And rock and roll.
And that's the thing a lot of people don't realize, is that one customer that is, like you said, destroying your customer. They're usually the one that they yell the loudest at the end and say, I need it now.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you've promised your other good ones that are on schedule, and now they suffer. So what's really happening?
Yeah. And then you take a look at that one customer, and listen, I've been in the woodworking industry for 30 years. We're not selling software at 150% margin. Okay. So we're talking about like an industry that's somewhere between -5 and the rock stars are at 15. Yeah. So it only takes one job to go bad, and you have to do 30 more jobs to make up for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been talking now for 40 plus some odd minutes. So we're going to let all these listeners get back to their factories and start making improvements instead of just listening to us.
Absolutely.
But we got to admit, we got a little bit of a kick out of this. We're an hour apart, and we had to fly 3,000 kilometers across the country to finally just do a podcast together.
That's right.
Because we're here for the K-Biz show.
Absolutely. K-Biz this weekend.
K-Biz all day, all night. So, well, anyway. Thank you for joining us on the podcast today. I think it was great, and I hope that everybody got as much value out of it as I did.
No, it's great. Thank you very much for having me, Brad. I appreciate it. It's, we've come a long way in our journey, and we definitely got a long way to go, but I'm glad I could share a little bit about the story.
I think you saved a lot of people a lot of hassle. So let us know in the comments, everybody. But this is us signing off for another episode of On the Shop Floor.